Welcome to the show. Everybody, let's do a quick sound check, guys, to make sure we're not screwed by StreamYard. Say something, Mac?
1, 2.
Okay, we're
Hello,
good.
1 2 1
For,
2.
for the first time ever, it worked.
Hey, gotcha,
Crime
boss.
Spot, special guest of honor for the review. Taxi driver, obviously, it's 1976. It's obviously Robert De Niro, the man behind me, joining us for the interview. Martin Scorsese, Harvey Keitel, and just the list goes on of NYC 70s grindhouse vigilante film royalty. But without further ado, you want to definitely head over to NYC Crime Spot's channel. Amazing New York crime coverage, mafia, organized crime breakdown, and just maybe give them a little blurb of what you do over there at Crime Spot.
Yeah. My name is Brett. I run NYC Crime Spot. We cover organized crime. Also, I have a mix. I mean, I do a lot of non-organized crime stuff too. A lot of what I do is go to the locations where these things took place, walk through the neighborhoods, show people where these things happened, and also try to dig up and uncover some, forgotten cases that from the 70s, 60s, 80s, even people have forgotten a lot of these things. So I like to unearth them and, talk about them. I do some interviews and stuff like that too. You'll see a few of those on my channel as well. And yeah, man, I've been doing about 2.5 years now. So it's going well, though. It's going well. I
Yeah, you
enjoy
do a
it.
lot of the like just legacy NYC cold cases, as you're saying, and I actually came into contact with your channel, obviously from Manny's channel, who we
Yeah.
both know. Shout out to him. He does the Son of Sam series, and then you guys did the one tangential case. I think you still have it up on your channel, the old episodes with Manny, because that was a classic.
Yeah. Was that the Leslie Zarrett one where we
Mm-hmm.
went to? Yeah,
I
yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
met
was a
Manny
couple
through
years ago.
YouTube also. So
Yep.
yeah, we did the Leslie Zarrett, which was, I guess, Manny. I believe, still believes it's connected to David Berkowitz, cold
Yeah.
case in Bayside, Queens.
Yep.
And along with that, we went over to Brooklyn after to do a tour of the Gemini Lounge.
Yes. Oh, I remember that too. That was epic too. So yeah, no, definitely check that out. Because in addition to Son of Sam, I think Crime Spot had a whole additional understanding of the Gemini Lounge. You were talking about other organized crime activity and just illegal activity going on in the location. If I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? You're a little low. That's
Oh,
why.
I mean, I could. Everybody, let me know if my level is good. If you guys can all hear me, and if so, I can turn it up. Crime Spot. But I was just saying. Let's see. Yes, you said that there was a bunch of additional illegal activity going on in and around the Gemini Lounge, in
Well, yeah.
addition
I
to
mean,
the
yeah.
Berkowitz
So
stuff,
the
right?
Gemini Lounge, for those who don't know, it sits today as a church. Uh, Not your traditional, church, but like a church inside like you would see like a storefront church, I guess, for lack of a better description. It used to be a bar called the Gemini Lounge from the early 70s to the early 80s. It was the home base of a former Gambino mobster by the name of Roy DeMeo.
Oh, that
And
sounds good.
they had the back room of this establishment, which was an apartment. And inside that apartment, numerous people were dismembered, hung up to dry above bathtubs, blood drained, dismembered, sent to what would be known as the
Yep.
Fountain
Yeah,
Avenue dump.
absolutely.
Um, if you
Yeah,
guys want more of that, I mean, I have somebody who is with that crew currently on my channel. He's the only person. I see Pete D. Pete D actually knows the person that I'm speaking of. Pete the Pick LaFrosia. He is a character in the book Murder Machine about this crew, and he is a friend of mine and the only member of that crew that you will see speaking about anything.
I
Absolutely.
have a quick
Absolutely.
question to that though. I know
Go for it, Mike.
they say that Roy DeMeo was like one of the most violent, gangsters ever. Like basically what you just said right there about the, finding dismembered body parts and most of his fronts. Um, I know this is it could be a totally irrelevant or relevant uh question here, but have you heard of Richard Konklinski? They call him the
Yes, I
Iceman.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, like was he in any form or shape involved with any of the Mayo's work? I'll say.
No, he never worked for Roy DeMeo.
All right then.
Not at all.
And that confirms it right there, because
Yeah. No,
I know
no.
they had the movie that tried to
Yeah.
say and insinuate
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, if anything, he was an
Mhm.
extortion victim of Roy DeMeo's. Yeah.
Okay.
Even the book that's out, the Philip Carlo book that's out. I mean, there's a bunch of lies in that book. There's a bunch of fake dates in that book. It's just completely historically inaccurate. That's not to say Richard Kuklinski wasn't a piece of shit. I believe he killed 5 people. He abused his family. He abused his children, his wife. He's a terrible person, but he didn't work for Roy DeMeo.
All right.
Excellent, boys. So what I would say to that is definitely head over to NYC Crime Spot, subscribe, go check out all his video series there, because this guy knows his stuff. Although he describes himself on the channel as an idiot with an internet connection and
That's
not an
correct.
expert in anything, I'm telling you guys, this guy does the best the best deep dives on the NYC cold cases and stuff. As he was saying, the Teespring's operational. Go get that PXF coffee mug there, as well as t-shirts and hoodies. Without further ado, let's get into this Taxi Driver review, gentlemen. So,
Hell yeah.
as we said for the setup, that it was 1976, and Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese. I think this is their second collaboration after Mean Streets. And I was just watching it, and I realized, like, what used to stay in my mind were those big, famous scenes that we all know. The big ending and just certain things that you talking to me, all those iconic moments. But what I actually realized is, like, a lot of those movies a lot of the movie is those silent scenes of him just like observing people in the streets and showing the disassociation. I mean, we could talk about some of the films in the movie when he was looking into the glass and like watching the thing dissolve into the water, just like a lot of those kind of slow-mo. And I just realized, like, oh my god, there's so many of these shots throughout the film that kind of set up his character that, like, you really don't notice, I think, on your first few watches. You guys could give me kind of, what your takes are on that as well.
I mean, well, I've seen the film like quite a few times, and yeah, just his sort of character being, like you say, just so disassociated with society, but at the same time, what he sees is what he sees. Even the people that he collects in his while he's doing his routes to his
Yep.
to his cab, he said he gets all types of scum, all sorts of, like, interesting characters that just pretty much round up his summary to what he how he finds society, and it's basically, not I won't say it's like, it's not something that's all, far from the, false, something that's false from, how you say, far from the truth, or so,
Yep.
because what he says is pretty much it sounds mostly like truth, but at the same time, it's what it's what he sees that just, drives him, furthermore to find something to do about it, since he tried to find one solution, a way of doing it. Now he's taking an alternative method of doing it because he feels he has nothing to lose at that point. But that's what I love about, Travis Bickle. That character is like one of the most interesting, psychopath. I don't know, man.
Focused. It's like a psychopathic with a direction. I like how he
Yeah.
will get to it. I like how he
with an
puts a
objective,
direction
like
to
he
it,
has
you
an
know what I mean?
objective of doing things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I really like about this character. De Niro did such a incredible job, being this guy, and you can tell, like, he did a lot of, like, research, just just trying to be the cab driver and just being like
Yep.
vigilante, this vigilanteism that he just carries, it's just definitely like one of those movies that you never would expect something like that to pop during the 70s and such. And 70s is, like, to me, I thought it was just the worst time for New York City. It's one of, like, the dregs was just coming right out.
Yeah, I want Brett to weigh in on that, because he, he's got a good finger on the pulse of that stuff.
But yeah,
But what do you think, Brett? Just like your, like, overall impression of the film, or however.
Yeah, I mean, like what you said is true. The more you watch it, the more you notice things. But not only that, the more I watch the film, the meaning has changed for me over the years. How I felt about it as a teen, I don't feel about it the same way. And yeah, the more you watch it, the more you notice those silly things. To be honest, I watched it again the other day in preparation for this, and You notice little things, like you notice when they first go to Palatine's office, Martin Scorsese's sitting outside. I never even
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah, I saw
I
that a
never
while back.
noticed
Yep.
that till I watched it the other day. It just kind of
Yep.
just passed over my mind, and I'm like, oh shit, Scorsese's sitting outside. So
Yep.
you notice
Yep.
these little things, and the meaning has certainly changed. You talk about the '70s. I mean, even like looking at Times Square now, when I look at Travis driving through there, I think like, oh, this mob guy owned that place. This mob guy owned that place.
Mm-hmm.
This place was
Mm-hmm.
run by this mafia family. You know, I got all this
Mm-hmm.
crazy shit going in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about that. You know, the backdrop to really what was going on. I think about that. Of course, you see all the pimps, and
Yep.
of course, you realize 1970s. You have the financial disaster that was going on in the city with the police unions, with the fire unions. You have the Fear
Yep.
City campaign. You have, of course, the violence, the murders, the auto theft. I mean, everything is just unbelievably through the roof. I mean, I think I did something on I did a thing on my channel on the whole Fear City campaign and everything that was going on. And I think in 1970s New York City, this is going to sound crazy, but somewhere between like this is going to sound nuts. Somewhere between like 18 to 20,000 homicides in the 1970s in New
Oh
York
yeah, I
City.
100% believe it.
Um,
100% believe it.
if you when you start looking at those statistics, I mean, of course, people that live through it, some people will say, it wasn't that bad. Y'all neighborhoods were safe, you know, but it really depended on where you were, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose, you know.
Obviously, they ain't read the papers.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know, yeah, and it depends where you were. If you were living in the South Bronx, I mean, it was another story. If you were living in Harlem or
Yeah.
wherever, you know, it really depends on where you were. Of course, I wasn't around, but you know, some people lived in good neighborhoods. Maybe they didn't feel it as much, you know.
For sure. I know even though you weren't around, like you've still looked into a lot of this stuff. Man, shout out to all the Crime Spot heads, Corruption Connection, Aaron, 24
Thanks,
Baby Double
guys.
Fire. Yeah, a bunch of peeps in the house. Um, is you know, Mac and I used to have this conversations about those old like NYC. I don't know if they were 70s or 80s, but I know it's definitely that era. It was like the NYC survival guides of like how to handle the streets and don't be out after dark and the types of things that were distributed in the climate that Crime Spot was talking about. So I was wondering how this film, you know, in my opinion, I'm a Boston guy, like I said, Crime Spot, but obviously a huge De Niro Scorsese fanboy. And I thought, you know, in my opinion, it did a good job of capturing the feeling of the era of, as you guys just said, with those nighttime, you know, Travis Bickle doing the rounds, as Max said, establishing the type of environment with you know, the nighttime New York streets environment, the pimps,
Yeah.
the drugs, the, you know, the crime, you know, whatever else is going on, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, what you said. I mean, the funny thing, I mean, about that Fear City campaign, for those of you who don't know, it only lasted a few days. I mean, the odds of you actually getting one of those Fear City pamphlets were very slim. I mean, you would have had to be at an airport arriving in New York City. You would have had to been maybe in Penn Station or one of the subway stations. That campaign literally was only a few days, but it made such an impact. And
Mm-hmm.
people got so mad that the police and fire unions were doing shit like that. And then they were, you know, they were basically scaring the tourists getting off the planes. I mean, they were at JFK, LaGuardia. Here you go, just so you know, this is what's going on, you know. And the PDF's available if you guys want to read it. It's online. I mean, it's interesting to say the least, but it really didn't last that long, that campaign. But it made, obviously, we're still talking about it today, you know.
For sure. I mean, and this is why even though Crime Spot mostly does, you know, true crime and cold cases on his channel, as he said, why I wanted him to join us for this, because there's so many things going on. Of course, there's the film and the meaning of the film, as we said, the content of the film, and then there's kind of that grimy New York City, you know, 70s, yeah, well, 70s, but it got, you know, like kind of was still promoted in the early 80s. And another thing we all spoke about, of course, is the Joker parallel. I thought, and again, not being a New Yorker, I thought Joker did quite a good job of establishing that sort of backdrop as well. You know, for how recently it was shot. You know.
Yeah, I thought Joker like pretty much was. I thought was more of a homage to like most, you know, a taxi driver basically. You know, except he wasn't driving a taxi.
And
Yeah,
a
yeah.
mixture of the King of Comedy. I don't know. I assume you've seen the King of Comedy.
Yeah, the
Comedy,
King of
Brett?
Comedy. That was definitely
Yeah.
right there. Say, yeah.
Have you seen that one, Brett? The other movie, The King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. It sounds
Yeah.
really familiar. Who's the main? It's an
It's
old
De
one.
Niro. It is De Niro.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah. So
him
I've never
playing.
actually seen it, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, if you like Joker, I think it's worth watching The King of Comedy for the parallels. But much like the Taxi Driver parallels, Joker's kind of amalgamation of both films. It's like taking The King of Comedy and mixing it with Taxi Driver. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always been drawn to movies like that, where it's like this weird loner male character who's kind of like strange. I've always liked movies even like that movie Drive. It's kind of like that with the Gosling movie. It's a little weird like that. I was thinking about.
Sure.
I don't know if you ever seen that movie Nightcrawler.
Yeah, the Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah, like it's just weird dude, and they're just like I like movies like that. I don't know why I'm drawn to like those type of movies.
Yeah. So Mac and I are big on like the Vigilante movies, and
Yeah.
I consider this to be one of the original Vigilante epic, but it's also quite different than, of course you have like, the conversation we were just talking about, the Fear City campaign. Of course, like Death Wish would come to mind with Charles Bronson, the citizen fighting back against the crime, blah, blah, blah. But this one, it's not like a run and gun. So the actual genres is listed on IMDb as crime and drama, which I do agree with. But there's also a massive scale of violence in Taxi Driver that's on no level of any, maybe some crime movies like Heat or something, but no drama I've ever seen. If you guys want to speak on that aspect, you know what I mean? I know it's mainly in a couple different parts, but
Well, I think the drama aspect comes mostly of like the type of character that he is. You can see he's trying to live also a normal life. Like he tried to fall in love with like one of the that lady that worked in the that worked with the what you call the mayor or the
Betsy,
Palestine,
the
Palestine,
politician.
Yeah, he tried to work with him in his campaign, and basically he's just trying to get with her just to get with her, just because she thought he was beautiful, but she was beautiful and such. But you could tell he didn't really know how to talk to her. He didn't really know how to take her out. He didn't know. Dude took her to a porno,
Yeah.
So they call that as a first date,
So all of that is supposed to be like the PTSD of his Marine career,
Right?
And so we have to talk a lot about Travis Bickle's daily routines, as we were all saying, and then the meaning of the film. Because I agree with Brett. I as far as the meaning changing for me, seeing it much younger and being a fan of those run and gun vigilante movies that we like, Mac. Just the action movie shoot 'em ups. That's kind of somehow how I felt about it as younger. Like, oh my God, you gotta watch this movie and wait until that last scene. We won't say what it is right now. I know. I don't know. We got to figure out what we're gonna do about spoilers, guys, because it is a movie from '76, and
Yeah.
the ending is so awesome. I got to figure out how I'm gonna handle that in this conversation. So, one of you guys can take it for now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Listen, a film. I think when a film is so old, I mean, there's no such thing as a spoiler. I mean, it's your fault if you haven't seen it. I mean, just like
He's right.
that's kind of how I feel it. I mean, that's how I kind of feel about it. I mean, we're not talking about a movie that came out last month over here.
Especially this.
Of course, it's your channel. But
So I got one for you. Let's talk about the new generation of millennial internet people. I don't know if you guys have peeked your radar yet. I'm really interested to see if you guys seen this, because it's a freaking pet peeve of mine. You'll go on Twitter, or AKX, as me and CrimeSpot were just talking about, and you'll see one of those polls, and it'll be like, hey, what's your favorite Robert De Niro movie? Is it Taxi? Have you ever seen Taxi with Robert De Niro?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
Who's that, Andy Kaufman?
I've never heard of Taxi with Robert De Niro. I'm like, I've seen Taxi Driver. You know what I mean? Huge pet peeve when they call Taxi Driver Taxi. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that drives me crazy, Brett. I don't know. It just is.
It's probably just lazy. Everybody has a shortcut of talking now online. You
gotta look at it like this, though. You know how you will watch something during the '90s, one of your favorite movies, and then you have your mom or your dad say, "Oh, is that so and so?" And then they get the name messed up, because they're not from your generation, so they're like,
yeah.
But now you can see it's kind of in reverse now, because you got the youngins just like watching us, see us watch these classics, and oh, is that Taxi, like you said. They don't really like look at what the movie really is and what it's about, who directed it, and all that. So
for sure, I hear you. Yeah, it's just a little funny little thing I noticed that drove me crazy. Here's Pete D here. a certain draw to the This is kind of what Brett was saying, to the grimy New York Times Square. Sounds stupid, but there's a certain nostalgia about it when New York was New York. I mean, you guys are my two New Yorkers, so that's why I had both of you on this review.
Yeah, I wasn't around, at that time, but yeah, like you said, I researched it.
You still see old movies.
Of course, my family, my family's from here, my roots.
Yep.
I'm sure, Mac too. But I want you were talking about like the drama with the film, right? Like to me, like every interaction almost that he has is dramatic. Like everything is like a conflict.
Sure.
And like almost I mean, from the time he goes in to get a job at the taxi, he's in conflict, kind of being a wise guy with the guy trying to give him a job. When he walks into the cafeteria,
bust my chops.
Yeah. Real clean, like my conscience,
Yeah.
If he goes in the cafeteria, hey Travis, you got that $5 you owe me? Like his coworker, like there's always something weird. Like there's always something going on,
Yeah, for sure. I love how he calls him killer. Like all those little like foreshadowing setups, because you know what's gonna happen, right? Like halfway through. So literally, I posted the trailer, and this is one of the many reasons why trailers like that are not like trailers of nowadays. They have almost that whole gun buying scene in the trailer. Like that's probably not something you're going to see nowadays, where they're going to be like, hey, this is the type of scene in this movie. A guy buys a briefcase full of black market illegal guns, like that's just not the type of thing that's going to be promoted. And even if a movie nowadays has that, like you're probably not going to see the scene in the trailer, right? It was
easy
awesome.
Andy.
But it's funny though, because I think like back in those days, that was the only way you could get a gun quicker. Basically, they go into a gun shop. New York, you gotta like fill out, you gotta go through all sorts of BS to get a gun, and even hard to get a gun even today. So yeah, that is basically the way it was, I guess. So
yeah, there was, I don't know, man, there was something about that guy who did that scene, and I love that guy who's the black market gun salesman. I forget, there's some fact about him, I forget what it was. He's like a
Stephen Prince, I believe his name is.
Yeah, and there was something like he was a friend of Scorsese's or something like that. He wasn't maybe a trained actor. Something like that. And he had like a really cool origin. Anyway, I love that scene's awesome. Like Brett was saying, the dialogue is epic. I love how he offers him all those drugs at the end. A spoiler, sorry guys. And then he's like, how about a Cadillac? I get you Cadillac for $2,000. And then just the transition, like he says the line, and then it just goes to something else. Like the transitions in this movie are super smooth.
Yeah, it talks about drugs.
Yeah, Scorsese's so smart. Like he gave him a great nickname, Easy Andy. And once again, we talk about like things that grow meaning to me. Like there was a guy in the mob who, I mean, he worked a lot with the Roy DeMeo crew, but he would supply them with guns and he would make his own silencers. He got indicted with them and they called him Fast Eddie. His name was Eddie Rendini and his nickname was Fast Eddie. So it's like these things are mimicking like a reality. Scorsese's so smart like that. Not that he knew who Fast Eddie was, but it's just funny when you see the way he gives nicknames, and because it is mimicking probably what he knows in a sense growing up where he grew up.
100%.
These funny nicknames, these characters.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted Brett. One sec back. That's exactly why I wanted Brett to bring that aspect of the New York authenticity of it, because that's what, art imitating life, as you were saying. Go ahead, Mac.
Oh no, I was gonna. Well, anyway, I'll just talk about a scene real quick. Maybe one of you two can tell me the meaning, but because it kind of confused me, but at the same time,
we could try. I mean, it's Taxi Driver we're talking.
All right. Well, okay. You guys remember the scene where he already had when he first got the mohawk, sunglasses. He's at the Palatine rally and such.
Yeah.
Now you know how he was going to approach him, and he was reaching to his jacket, and obviously Secret Service saw him, then he turned around and ran away.
Yeah.
Now my thing is, I don't know. In the back of my mind, I was wondering, was he really gonna do something, or was he just doing that just to test the waters to see if they were gonna react to that, and just because my thing is like, I don't know, like the reason why he would do that, knowing that it was going to be dangerous, seeing that he had security and police around him. So it's like, why would you even try? But at the same time, like,
I know what you're getting at. I'm gonna let Brett Brett go first and just see what he thought, because we all might have something different, you know.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I always imagined that he was, and that he simply just screwed it up. I mean,
Yep.
or honestly, I'd never really thought about it too hard. I mean, or it could be that he was testing the guy, that he was just asking to give him, he wanted to get a job with the Secret Service. He was talking to that guy, like
Yeah.
Yep.
maybe
I
he's
was gonna come.
testing him, maybe he's going for a thrill. Let me see what these guys actually do, But you know what? It's a good point because I never really thought about it whether, but I guess automatically I assumed that he probably was going to do it. But Ross, I mean, I would love to hear
Yeah. Yeah.
Ross
So.
Bickle. I just noticed that.
yeah. Got grand pop behind me there. So my interpretation is that what Brett just said, Max, since he questioned that guy in the previous scene about, hey, you're a Secret Serviceman and all that, and then questioning him, and then you're talking about later on when he was about to draw. Brett's first inclination. See, I thought he was going to do it, and Mac brought up, how it could be different interpretations here. I always thought he was going to do it because that's what everything was building up to. He now had the vendetta against the campaign because like Betsy broke it off with him. But it could be multiple interpretations. Obviously, like he kind of messed it up, like Brett was saying. But like it seemed like he was going to do it, and I'll tell you what kind of confirms that he was going to do it, Mac, when he goes the other way and takes it out on Sport, on Matthew. The fact that he channeled the energy in another direction, it proves to you that he was going to do something. And like these were the exact conversations I wanted to get into with you guys. Also, earlier on, we talk about the Wizard's monologue, which is probably the best monologue of the movie. The whole philosophy of like, he basically tells him contradicting philosophy, like go out and do something, do nothing, it doesn't matter anyway. And
Right.
then Travis, of course, Manny covered this with the influence on David Berkowitz. I just want to go out and do something. I just want to go out and really do something. He established at that point that he was going to do something. So then, as you said, messed it up when he tried it on Palantine. And again, I would love to hear the audience weigh in on it too, because that's what makes Taxi Driver so good. It's this kind of open to interpretation plot elements,
But I always thought that he would go after the pimp just because Harvey Keitel's character, Sport.
Yeah.
Because I thought that he would have been like, I thought he was gonna be a target anyway, since
Sure.
that
Sure.
yeah, because he wanted to liberate Jodie Foster's character,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he just wanted to free, save her, free all that stuff, but I thought that was gonna be something he was gonna do anyway. But at the same time, I guess for what you said, about Paladin also,
Yeah. She's Iris. Yeah.
maybe Iris, her.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know. Like I thought he was gonna go on a vigilante run, I guess.
Yeah, no, I like again, like the audience can weigh in with us with what they think if you guys have seen Taxi Driver, but I like your interpretation, Maxie. I always thought there would be one grand target, Grand Terra, go out in a blaze of glory, because that's what he was building up with the angry towards Palantine. Of course, we see Palantine in his taxi earlier, so they do. I love that exchange where he's like, hey, what do you think we need to fix around here, Travis? And he's like, we should flush it all down the toilet. And like he has that like kind of like rant, and then Palatine's like, I think I know what you mean. Like, I love that response, you know what I mean? But I like Mac's interpretation too, that he was just checking off people off the list, you know what I mean? So we haven't discussed at one point Travis goes to the local corner store grocery to grab some milk and eggs there, and he encounters a issue. If you want to expound on that one, Mac. This is actually before the Palantine rally.
I honestly thought his appetite was weird. This guy had a bowl of bread, crumbs on there, milk, and he put peach schnapps.
Yeah, I was gonna say the liquor. I was trying to see what the liquor was. I was gonna ask you guys about that too.
I just thought it was a weird appetite he was having. I don't know if that was like feeding to his PTSD or something.
Yeah, chopped up bread with the liquor on it. That was I kind of noticed, like I noticed it before, but like Brett was saying that, I was like, whoa, that's
a lot of sugar too, if you notice.
But he cut it out when he started doing the push-ups. But Mac, I was talking about that part when he goes to the corner store and that dude is the stick-up. That's the first vigilante action we see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. The guy who came in like, give me the bread, and
Yep.
Travis came out with that I guess it was like a 357 he came with, and
Yep.
just popped him right then and there, and stormed him. You know what I mean? He was grateful. He even took the gun, talking about just get out of here, get out of here.
Yeah, yeah. So what Mac was just saying earlier about gun license, Travis was like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't have this registered.
Yeah, I
What'd you
wonder,
think?
like, there's also kind of like this theme in the movie where he's like staring at black dudes, if you notice, like whether it be the
Yeah.
pimps, he's staring at like these dudes in the street, and then he gets in the cafeteria and he's grilling the black pimps.
Yep.
And you almost wonder if Martin Scorsese like, let's let Travis kill one of those guys for the movie. I don't know, like, because in researching also, like, I just went on Reddit. I was like, well, what do people think of Travis? I mean, you see a lot of wacky shit on there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like most of it, I just threw out the window. But I did start thinking whether Travis might have been prejudiced, or maybe he just hated everybody. Like I don't know what if you guys ever thought about that at all.
Yeah. So
Is there
I
an
did.
ingrained prejudice in him, or
Yeah. 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 So I did notice that, like on my last watch, as you were saying, but he also has similar stare offs with just like all the random people in the streets. So
Yeah.
But if there was, yeah, there was a little bit more on that aspect that I noticed. Obviously, So you talked about Scorsese outside of the building, but we haven't talked about Martin Scorsese's actual scene in Travis's cab, which is like
Right.
the
Right.
big
Another
Scorsese
hassle.
cameo, and I think that plays into partly of what you were saying. It's like a Tarantino-esque, like N-word filmed diatribe. Do you remember that part, Mac?
Well, what you mean? What scene?
When Scorsese's in Travis's thing, and he's talking about his wife, like upstairs with the black guy.
Yeah,
Scorsese
yeah.
uses
Where he
some
talk about killing the guy that was with his wife. Yeah, yeah.
Scorsese uses some non-PC dialogue in that scene.
But I think like that even shows the type of people that he meets and sees, you know, what can drive a man to do, to kill, basically.
Like everybody's on the edge. It's showing that like other people in the city are on the edge with the
and it's not just him.
Daily life stress, for sure.
People going on, like
that's how I interpret it, Brett. And
dude,
again, you were saying
was unhinged in that scene, and I actually like.
Right.
It's almost like what exactly how to say it and present it.
Yeah. And it's like Brett was saying, there's obviously some sort of racial, divide theme going on there as well. 70s racial divide.
Well, I mean, listen, there's a reason why his wife is screwing a black guy, because where Scorsese grows up, he's Italian, who he grows up around, and he grew up around wise guys, he grew up around this guys. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing that your wife can do. Mm-hmm. Not only cheat on you, but cheat on you with a black guy. Yeah. That is literally, when you look at the dynamics with those people at that time, and even today, I mean, we don't have to front about it, that is one of the worst your wife could cheat on you, that's bad enough, but can you believe she cheated on me with an N-word, as he's saying in the car, because he knows that would be the worst thing that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I think during the 70s, that was definitely how it was, the racial tension and division, because you couldn't have certain people walk into Harlem, or you couldn't have certain people walk into, that area in Little Italy, Brooklyn, whatever, because obviously, then people of another color are not too kindly welcome, or it's just it was just a lot of racial tension there, like even when Bumpy Johnson, who was running Harlem, he made a lot of business deals with a lot of Italians, but at the same time he knows that they didn't like him. Then he knows, like, why is this guy running Harlem, blah 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 blah, one of our guys. And that's how it always was. It's just the tension, and not wanting to like coexist, in the city, with other people like that. But eventually, that's just what it was in New York City. You're gonna have all sorts of races, colors, and creeds, but at the same time, and during that time period, everyone was just like in their own little community. whites mixed with black, or brown mixed with white, so and so and so. It's crazy. You know?
Yeah, and that scene
Agreed.
plants the idea. If when you look at it, I mean, that scene literally, I mean, as far as I could tell, plants the idea of even obtaining guns. You know, Travis going out and actually getting
Yep.
guns. Because when he goes
Yep.
to Easy Andy, he's like, "You got a 44 Magnum?" Because that's what Marty's talking about in the car. You ever seen what a
Yep.
44 Magnum can do? So when he
Mhm.
goes to get a gun, that's the
Yeah.
first gun he wants. Oh, you got a 44 Magnum? He's like asking
Yep.
him about it. And
Yep.
of
Yep.
course, that guy's got a problem with women. He's got a problem with women. So he's just like, oh, I guess that, it's just
Yep.
pretty bizarre, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's all the lining up of like everybody's like stressors, as you guys were saying. So earlier on in the film, we'll spoil a little bit. Let's see what my man PT was saying. The '90s NY was more of a layer cake than a melting pot when it comes to neighborhoods, for sure, man. Makes some sense. So early on, Iris almost got in his cab to get away from Matthew, but she got pulled away, and lured by more offers of drugs and money, and that sticks with Travis, because as he's casing out the streets, he sees her again later on. Ultimately, when he like talks to her, and then she sends him over to Sport. That first interaction between Matthew and Travis, when Matthew thinks he's a cop, obviously thinks he's a cop, or is pressing him about being a cop. And then, as Mac said, so Mac alluded to that Palatine rally earlier. And then at some point, guys, we see the anger redirected at Matthew, and I guess it goes back to that narration. I want to talk about Robert De Niro's narration of, listen, you effers, you screwheads. This is a man that would not take it anymore, would not take it, and he comes back to all those repeat narration lines. Like, Mac and I are big fans of those old kind of narrated noir movies, and Taxi Driver is definitely one of them. Of course, like Blade Runner, there's a version of the narration. Like, I guess it's a trend that kind of went away. I mean, I always really preferred that stuff for the character pieces. I guess nowadays for new movies, people think it's kind of corny. But when you had like legends like De Niro and Ford doing it, I always thought it worked really well in those older 70s, 80s, 90s movies.
I love that stuff. I mean, yeah.
It's like it's like another way to articulate the character's thoughts, because a lot of Travis's scenes are silent, as you guys were saying before, when he's just interacting with the New Yorkers or taking the fares or whatever. He doesn't really say much. It's just him walking through the streets, and then mostly motion acting, but the narration gives him that extra layer of what's this character thinking about, and he's kind of narrating his thoughts.
Not to
That's how I
mention
interpret
like him being an insomniac, he doesn't even sleep. It's like constantly thinking about this stuff, and it's just you could tell it's just driving him crazy.
Yeah.
So
Just seeing the everyday crime or seeing the everyday evil of the city, right? Right, Brett. That's kind of what they were revolving around of his
Yeah,
rounds,
but he's almost like torturing himself, though. It's like he hates it so much, but like all he wants to do is work in the worst neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I mean, he openly tells the guy when he goes for the job, "I'll work anywhere." When he's in the cafeteria, they even ask him, "Hey, you work uptown or in the Bronx?" He's like,
I was gonna
he's like,
mention
"Yeah."
that.
He's like, and I don't know if the guy says that must be rough. I don't know if he says anything to it, but they do question him in the cafeteria about where he's picking people up at, and he's just like, "Yeah, whatever." But
Well, he tells them when they go. What I would say to Brett's point there is they say, "Hey, Travis, how you doing?" And he goes, "What? Huh?" He goes, "I just heard on the radio like a cabbie got his ear slashed up by a dude with a razor blade." Like, so his answer to the question of how are you doing is some guy just got his face slashed up in kind of one of my route neighborhoods or whatever, and that's when they started asking him like, "Hey, don't you pick up there?" So that's
right.
Well established. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, he's as Brett said, he's kind of going further down the toilet flush here by, he's narrating to us that he can't stand it, but as you guys said, he's staying around it. Every night he's staying involved in it, so to see what's going
willingly.
on.
I mean, just...
I'm guessing because him being a veteran and all that, that's the environment that he's attuned to. It's like chaos and crazy. And of course he hates it. Like basically something he's seeing every day. Feels like you have innocents walking around here, they can get hurt. At the same time. So I mean his mentality, man, definitely like
for sure.
Paranoid. So
100%, yeah. So I'm going to speed up the plot here. So ultimately, yeah, he meets up with Sport. He gets the room to go talk to Iris. Normally, people rent her for prostitution purposes, but obviously, Travis is not doing that for everything else established in the plot. So he goes up to talk to her, and he gets like a few more chances to talk to her. And then I don't know. What should we tell him how it ends? I'm going to leave it up to you guys. It is my favorite scene, but I'm torn on how to report on it.
What do you
Well,
mean?
What do you guys think?
You go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you don't mind, back to before, with the
Yeah.
failed Palatine thing, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, like him going to kill the pimps and to do that, it's a good trade-off.
Mhm.
Because if I was just thinking, like, if you remember when he goes to see Betsy, first of all, he's so socially inept. I mean, his like social cues are so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably on the spectrum. Like today, he would like be on the spectrum, whatever. They would hit him with some like autist shit or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But he tells her that, basically tells her that she's a miserable person, and he can tell that she's miserable, and he can tell that, like, he's just like guessing everything about her life, that he thinks that everything about her, she's miserable, like even maybe alluding that to that her job sucks or whatever. Like he's kind of like
Yeah.
projecting all this shit onto her,
Yep.
right? And Iris' job sucks too, right?
Obviously.
So it's like he's got this thing where he's trying to kill the bosses of like people who he thinks like jobs suck. You know what I'm saying?
Like
He's got like this
oppressing their
trade-off.
workers.
He's like,
Right.
I couldn't kill Betsy's boss, but I can kill Iris's boss, I guess, instead. It's
Yep.
so weird. I was just thinking about that.
No, so I think Brett is 100% on that, and also the dynamic between him and Betsy and him and Iris, because he has a connections to both. So he has a connections to both female characters, and whereas Palatine's obviously an idiot, but he's a politician, and he might not even win anyway, right? He could go through that campaign and fail and become a nobody. But as Mac was saying earlier, Sport is still going to be running the streets no matter what. I think you guys were both alluding to. So he could always stop by Sports Block and pop off on him. Which anyway, of course we get the "you talking to me" scene with pulling out guns and all the kind of preparation he does for his mission, which I think that is like one of the best montages of all time. Seen that hundreds of times. But ultimately, yeah, he so. We meet a couple other characters in there who Travis would consider guilty. That's like the guy running the rooms for Iris. He's like with the hotel manager. I don't know what you call that. One shot that I would highlight is the first time Travis and Iris go up that hallway. You get a really good over the shoulder, almost like a first person perspective type of shot. Very shadowy, grimy, tight hallway. The tight New York, what would you call that? Like the stoops or the project hallways. And I thought that was really mood eccentric. You know what I mean?
He's in Mean Streets too. That dude. I don't remember his name.
Oh yeah. See, I think there's definitely some carryover actors.
But he is
that
in
I
there.
probably missed. Nice call. So I think everybody, you guys have seen Taxi Driver, the Vigilante film. We all know what's going to happen, right? I think we're just going to get to it, boys. I can't hold it back anymore. I do want to get Baby Bull's thing. I'm just going to kind of defer this to Manny's channel because they have, I hope it's still up. I know some of it got taken down, but they did some in-depth Taxi Driver influence on David Berkowitz, and it's certainly interesting. My point to that real quick would be somebody asked like Joaquin Phoenix during Joker. I don't know if you guys saw that interview where they're like, hey, what if this movie propels someone to do something violent, which is a messed up question because I know it doesn't happen from movie influence often, but it does happen. And if, the Taxi Driver influence on Berkowitz is a possible influence for Son of Sam, that is some frightening stuff. So when Joaquin Phoenix got that question, he actually walked out of the interview and came back in. He probably like called his manager or something. I could kind of understand that response because it's like, yeah, I don't want my movie being responsible for some killing spree. You know what I mean? It makes sense, but it's again, art imitating life, and vice versa.
I haven't heard about the Berkowitz thing. I heard the only thing I heard that influenced anything was that Hickley Reagan getting shot story. That. But other than that, though, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're basically saying, Matt, because Berkowitz was wearing like a green army jacket around, and he apparently had seen Taxi Driver and become obsessed with it,
Yeah.
before his Son of Sam
Right.
killing spree. So he was kind of imitating Bickle. Actually, he was a cabbie as well, CrimeSpot, right? If I don't.
Yeah,
if I didn't-
well, what I'll say is good on Manny because if I'm not mistaken, Manny made that connection first, and then I think a
Yep.
few months ago there was a new podcast they came out with interviews with Berkowitz, and I believe he
Mhm.
does actually admit
Yep.
that he liked that film a lot.
So he confirmed it. So that's.
I believe
That's yeah.
I'm
That's,
pretty sure that happened. I mean, and it's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Travis's monologues. I mean, those are David
Yep.
Berkowitz's letters. I mean, he's talking
Yep.
all the shit.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
he references the gutters or whatever. I mean, it's the kind of the same
Yep. The
thing
sewers
almost. I
and
mean,
flushing
Berkowitz
the gutters.
is,
Yeah.
you know, a little
Yeah.
stranger, really, but it's kind
Yeah,
of the same
yeah.
idea. I mean, 44. He's using the 44.
Yep.
And it's a
Good
different
call.
type of 44, but still.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same caliber. Yeah. So the 44 killer before it was.
I guess I could
40.
see the
It was-
the influence there.
Yeah, if you look him up, Mac, I'll send you Manny's video on it, and it'll brush you up. It's probably more realistic than you would like, but anyway, boys, we're like getting to 45 minutes here, so at some point, I think you guys can see where this conversation is going. Let's take a look at my man back here.
Yeah.
Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro cannot take it anymore. He's been telling us all movie. He ultimately zeroes in on Matthew's prostitution ring, where Iris is essentially being held as a drug mule against her will, and that's when the most insane shootout in 70s, 80s movie history ensues. Travis shoots his way in there armed with multiple firearms with other devices that he's created upon his journey. And this movie has one of the best endings of all time. I won't say what the very ending is, but just how, when it shows the newspaper clippings and just how even the whole Betsy coming full circle, we don't need to say exactly what it is, but just everything after, from when he's found at the scene, like covered in blood, doing the and then the whole movie, everyone kept calling him like cowboy and killer. Everyone kept doing like the the thumb shot at him. So you know what it's going to amount to, right? Like we all know it's going to happen, but it's the way that it happens that has the impact. And this was always one of my favorite scenes. Gratuitous violence. It's Grindhouse at its peak, but epic. So epic. If you guys have seen the movie, you could weigh in the comments.
Yeah, man. I just like how claustrophobic the action was on that one, when the shooting through the hallway and all that.
Yep.
Like that was like great cinematography right there, especially when Scorsese backs out the camera while he's pulling out that gun and just showing the distance between him and his, and the rival gangster right there, like, yo, not to mention, just making his way up, taking them out one by one, and Vic was getting shot at the same time, but he doesn't even care. He's just
taking damage, not slowing him down. Yeah. Dude, it's the most intense. It's one of the most intense shootout scenes I've ever seen. Like, what do you think, Brett? Just your whole reenactment to the final act and.
Oh yeah, it's classic. I mean, suck on this. I mean, when he had, I think White Zombie used that in the song later on. If you guys remember, it's in the beginning. It goes, suck on this.
A lot of that stuff got sent.
So it's so memorable. I mean, there's so many memorable quotes throughout that entire movie. And then Sport, and then he goes in. Obviously, then Sport comes back and he gets shot in the neck. Travis.
Yep.
Then he shoots that guy's hand off, and then you have that other guy. Now, I have an opinion on what happens to Travis based on what he does.
Sure.
If there was going to be an afterthought of the movie, but
sure.
Then of course he kills that other guy in that plaid kind of suit.
Yep.
And you talk about the way it's filmed. I mean, you see the bullets hitting his cheek. It's. And like Max said, it's claustrophobic. It's like this really like close combat, with the stairs and even with the sound effects with the guns. It sounds like a Western kind of. It's just like these old like kind of whew, like these old weird sounds of the bullets going off.
Oh yeah, no, hell yeah, bro. Like I agree all points. I think we lost our man Mac, but Brett and I will float us here. Mac, jump in if you need to. The claustrophobicness, like and I think the Scorsese shots kind of somewhat established those tight hallways and all that stuff as they kept going up and down out of the building. Then of course, he's gonna find his way back there at the end of this final scene that we're talking about. But just I don't even know how to explain the pacing of it, because it's both like happening rapid fire, but at the same time it's a very elongated, as you guys said, taking them out one by one, and you know the events are happening fast, but it seems like the scene is going long, and I think that holds up after multiple views. And then of course just how he's found basically in a just obliterated building full of debris. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're
After-
playing with speed. I mean, you could see it. I mean, even
Yeah.
when you get into the room and you see Iris, when she backs up, she's in slow motion. Like they slow that down, and then it speeds up really quick when the fat guy comes back. And it's just, so
Yep.
they're definitely playing with speed during the scenes. It keeps changing, like the pace
Hell
keeps
yeah.
changing, and
Hell
it
yeah.
definitely contributes to what you're saying, where you
Yep.
don't know if this is taking forever or this is going quick. And it's funny because I could kind of imagine that maybe that's what it would actually be like to be in a situation like that, where your adrenaline's going, but probably by the time it's all over, it's a blur. Oh, it happened. You see people say it all the time. It happened so fast.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yep. That's and even like you were saying about the bullets hitting the cheeks. Again, I don't think any of us have ever found ourselves in many of these situations, but the way Scorsese shoots it, it looks realistic. Like it looks like that's how it would happen. You know, it's hard to say, but just like seems that way. But yeah, it's amazing. I think we could pretty much get into our ratings, guys. Again, it's one of my favorite finale scenes of all time. It's just absolutely bonkers and super epic. I can start us off, guys. I think I'm pretty high. Let me double check what the old IMDb was, because it's been a while. So it's got an 8.2 average out of almost 900,000 ratings on IMDb. I gave it 10 out of 10. One of my favorite movies of all time. Of course, Robert De Niro. Of course, Martin Scorsese. What really struck out to me this last time watch, guys, was the music. Mac and I have been taking a lot more notice of music, just the Taxi Driver theme and just the use of sound effects. Like it's almost like how horror movies use the jump scares. Like he has that big like siren, but it's it's when you need to zero in on something that's going on in Travis's observation. And I find the film genius. One of my favorites of all times. This is a PXF classic. So, whichever one of you guys wants to jump in next.
Well, I'll give it definitely a 10, because basically it it sums up what a vigilante film, how you're supposed to make something like that. It's
That's what I thought.
the noirism of it, gave me interest in it. That's including the narration, cinematography, how it was, filmed and all that. You could see like Scorsese throw little windows in there, of like, New York and how it was in the 70s, and how crime was, and how pretty much people were also, like, even that one scene where he was in the cab and Palatine went to his cab, how he was driving from one spot to the next. And that conversation right there, was very realistic. Basically, he's trying to like see, no, Palatine, what do you think you're gonna do about the scum, the dirt? And Palatine said what he said, but it was like the most $2 answer in the world at any.
So it represented it like the divide between like upper class guys like the politician and like basic more working man guys like Travis. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, man.
Right.
So it shows the division of that, and where Travis stands, where he stands, and you can see like basically everything leading up to where it needed to lead up to that point. So yeah, definitely 10.
Hell yeah. Take us home, Brett.
Yeah, so being that it's probably top 5 favorite movie of all time, I would probably give it a 10. I mean, and as far as like you basically have any single personality trait that you can possibly think of is portrayed in that film.
Hell yeah.
There's so many different characters. I mean, the cab. I mean, you have Palatine's in his cab, lunatic Martin Scorsese's in his cab. This child prostitute almost gets in his cab. You remember that businessman with the prostitute?
Yep.
There'll be a lot of money if you do the right thing. He's like some businessman, like with some so he's like running into like every different walk of life, and that's all coming out. And he doesn't know how to handle it, I don't think, because he's, honorably discharged veteran. Like we said, he's socially inept. He's probably on the spectrum somewhere there. He has no social cues whatsoever. He's like the worst in the world. Taking Betsy to a porno, you know?
Yep.
And but when you watch it, there is another couple sitting in the theater, if you notice. So he probably thought it was okay, you know?
Yeah. Just desensitized to modern society, you know.
Yeah, but
Coming back from the
I
war.
would say it's a 10. And to hit you with something else, if I had to imagine, maybe I'll ask you. I know it's your show, but I'll tell you guys, I would love to know what you guys think happens to Travis.
So yeah, I know you alluded to that earlier. So you mean like after the final finale, or you mean like after everything that they've showed on camera, like his fate? You mean like his overall?
Yeah, like what happens after he's in the newspaper? What is his life at? What happens?
Like the way they established it, like it totally changed. He becomes reformed. Like essentially, Betsy gets back in the car and takes one more fare from him, and he doesn't even pursue her anymore because he doesn't even care. He finally got gratification. That's ultimately, you know, my interpretation. But I don't know if I've ever thought far enough along of where Travis goes from there, you know, because it's such a linear, finite story.
See, Ross, I'm gonna have to beg to differ on you on that one, man. Like, I don't know why in the back of my mind I always thought like when Betsy got in his cab and you know he was taking her to where she could take her, I for some reason I don't know why I was just thinking like he imagined all that, and
Sure.
yeah, and when you get to the end of it and you know she's gone and all that other stuff, you know how he looked at his rear view mirror and all that, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I took that as him like probably going to return to being, doing vigilante justice again. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I didn't say that like he didn't have it in him, you know, like it was gone, but like I don't know. Yeah, it makes sense. I could see both sides. Where were you going with, Brett?
Yeah, so once again, we talk about like picking up new things in movies and movies change meaning.
Yeah.
I think Travis gets whacked.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I say it because now you really got to pay attention to the newspaper clippings at the end, right?
Yeah.
So the guy that with the cheeks getting shot in the face with the
Yeah.
plaids, Martin Scorsese, he makes up a name for him. I think the name is Anthony Scaloso or something. If you read the newspaper,
Yeah.
and he describes him as a mafia leader from Brooklyn.
Ah, I like that touch, dude.
So
they
if you take into account what's going on in New York City at the time, you don't kill. So mafia leader doesn't imply boss because a boss wouldn't be in some skeezy place.
Right.
Could he be a capo? Possibly. But
Sure.
a mafia leader from Brooklyn. He's back driving his cab. You know how easy it would be to whack Travis? Very easy for them.
And they all put it out there, right? They're like his life reformed every return to his career, so everyone knew. So, wow, that's a great dude. So you know what? I noticed that title, but that you pointed out, but I never put it together like that, dude. I'm so glad we did this show, man. That is crazy. Shout out to Manny, popped in the house. We're wrapping up, Manny.
They would whack him.
Yeah, of course. Well, or they're at least gonna try. And man, I wish I'm not like the big like make the sequel of the epic first solo film, but if there was one to do it of, and if that freaking plot line could play out with the mafia hitmen coming back on to Travis and having a second chapter, oh my god, I would have at least taken a video game.
Yeah, I mean, you don't just kill a mafia leader from Brooklyn
with no repercussions. With no repercussions, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's a great point, man. That's awesome.
That was a good pickup right there, man. I got to see that part again where
I just know, literally, guys, I just noticed it. I was like, well, I wonder what it really says in those articles. It said mafia leader from Brooklyn. And I was like, oh shit, Travis is getting whacked.
And revenge is a major theme of the film. You know, they push revenge all throughout the Scorsese scene, and that's revenge coming full circle. It doesn't get any more vengeful than Sicilian Vendetta.
Plus, like you can't just like you said, you just can't whack mafia leader. I feel like you're gonna get away with it. Not to mention changing his whole look again and all that other stuff. Like you're gonna know making the papers, doing all that.
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
Publicity is out
the media.
there.
That's That's what we were saying.
I would have left New York City at that point.
Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
The cops would have told him to leave. They would say, "Listen, do you know who you just killed? You need to go do something with your life.
Yeah.
Not in New
Man,
York City."
that's you know what
Witness
you know what
protection.
it was never in my mind because all the other Scorsese are so mafia and Italian mafia, Sicilian mafia, organized crime based, such as Goodfellas and Casino. So that's always like forefront in those movies. But you know, as Brett said, you know, Scorsese's neighborhood and his upbringing is always a major theme in his films. So yeah, it kind of comes full circle there. I think you know what I mean. Nice pickup.
What's
I
up,
think,
man?
What up? What up? I think that'll do it for us, guys. Shout out to everybody coming through. Shout out Manny, the whole crew, Roro, OG Ruby, everybody from CrimeSpot's channel. Definitely, I'm sure you guys are already subbed to NYC CrimeSpot, but go do it again and come out here and sub here, PXF. I don't know what we're doing next, Mac. We'll find something to review, but if ever have anything that fits, major shout outs to Brett. His channel's amazing, so you know what I mean? Show him some love there. And I think this will do it for the Taxi Driver review, guys. A Grindhouse classic. Pretty much, I wouldn't say it's in my top 5, but Brett has me questioning that now because I always used to have a really steadfast top 5, and I was thinking this would be like a 6, but now I'm questioning everything, guys. So.
I know, bro. I think it's in my top 10. I think it's an amazing.
Definitely my top 10. Definitely my top 10. That's non-negotiable. I think we're out, boys. Unless you guys have any final thoughts.
No, I appreciate you having me on, man. This is really fun. Like I said, I've never, done anything like this before. I love movies. I wouldn't call myself a movie buff by any means, but I do love this movie, and
absolutely,
it's like I said, it's changed meaning for me over the years. When I was a kid, I was into punk rock. It was like a punk rock aesthetic, but when you really look at it, it's really not. But the Mohawk and all this other bullshit.
Yeah, the
Mohawk, yeah, this was fun, man. This was really cool, man. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
No,
nice
awesome.
to meet
It all
you,
started because Manny was on my show and Taxi Driver came up, and then I was trying to claim the ultimate Taxi Driver fanboy title of all time, and Brett sparred me on it. So I was like, all right, dude, you're coming on. that's how that one happened, guys. It was very organic. Mac, so anywhere else they can find you other than just over on the YouTube?
No, just on YouTube, NYC CrimeSpot. Yeah, YouTube. If you ever want to email me, nyccrimespot@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram DM NYC CrimeSpot.
And Brett was an OG graffiti head around the way back in the day, Mac. So you guys got a little.
Oh, is that right, Mac? You messing around with that? All right, cool.
Yeah, well,
he does some things.
That's how I used to. Now,
yeah, me too.
Too old,
now I just knew.
Mac's nice with the pen, though. He can do some illustrating. I'm just the guy really good with the background effects and, you know what I mean, hosting the YouTube channels, which actually StreamYard worked tonight. So let's get a round of applause for them. It's always a crapshoot, the world's smallest violin. But shout out to everybody who came through, everybody from Manny's channel, everyone from Brett's. Mac, we'll find something to review soon, and that is Taxi Driver. If you haven't seen Taxi Driver, there's something wrong with you. Go check out the trailer on YouTube. Go buy it. I was going to show you guys. I have the copy I have is the Blu-ray. It has a bunch of production stills that came through of like the filmmaking set. Do you have that one, Mac?
I got that one. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So I got the 4K Ultra Disc player now, so I don't know if there is a 4K version of this, but it's now I'm like checking out those 4K hard copies, Brett. You guys ever have that thing where someone's like, yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie, and they're like, yeah, do you have a hard copy? And they're like, I don't have any hard copies. I'm like, I don't trust this dude. Like, you're not a real movie fan.
Yeah, I used to have like the whatever DVD edition they came out with a while ago, but right now I don't honestly, like, I don't have anything to play anything since I moved. I don't have shit, but
no, it for sure happens. It's just like with me, I have like VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and I have like 4 or 5 copies of some of my. Until you have a closet full of it, you're like, damn, I don't have a player for any of these. You know what I mean?
I understand it completely, dude. I have an uncle like that. He's just
nostalgic, dude. You gotta pry it out of my cold, dead hands. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be buried with that shit. All right, boys. Shout out to everybody who came through. Taxi Driver, Grindhouse. What were we saying, Mac?
I said if something is good, you have to own a copy. I don't care.
Right.
Exactly. I feel that. Give us some like, sub, shares. The merch is in the spring. Go get your coffee mug, your hoodies, t-shirts. We'll be back next time. Major shout out to CrimeSpot. Have a good night, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving weekend.
Thank you, guys.
We're out. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us. Peace.
Yes, sir.
This is the